Welcome back, YouTube, to another FPL Gameweek video. It's Damo _23, and today we have got a video surrounding a Game Week 8 wildcard. Should you look to wildcard instead in Game Week 9? And what players that are on the screen have good long-term fixtures that you might either A, look to on a wildcard, or secondly, more importantly in my view, who you could go to for your next 4 to 5 game weeks and get you through to the World Cup if you've already played your wild card. Firstly, I would like to say thank you for all the support on the new channel. If you aren't subscribed, it is free to do so. Click the red button below, give it a like, and that will help us reach more people around the world that may enjoy the content as well. If you look at the Game Week 8 team that I have in front of me on the Fantasy Football Hub website, I do recommend it. It is a very helpful tool. We've picked some players between myself and Paul that are of either in a lot of selection teams or have good fixtures coming up. I've highlighted 3 of those players that I'll talk about their actual in-game stats at the minute as well. And more importantly, break down the players on screen and some of the players that are not featured in this draft. As you can look at the team on the screen, I'm not going to run through every player, but in net is Raya and Ward on the bench. I feel like if you are on a Game Week 8, Game Week 9 wildcard, the best keeper to go for may be a Nick Pope as we look at Trippier's fixtures. They're a good side at the minute, defensively solid, have good stats for a team, and more importantly, have historical data from the end of last season where you know what you're going to get from the Newcastle defence. I feel like if you're on a Game Week 8 wildcard, he is your priority transfer in. But a lot of people do have Raya in at the moment and someone you could look to for the foreseeable future. If you already got him in your team, you can ride him. Or with Raya, you can look to hold him for the next few game weeks past Arsenal where there's save points. He's got Bournemouth and Newcastle, which could be of interest to you too. I do think as you look at Trippier's fixtures, you got Pope as well. A double up for Bournemouth, Fulham, Brentford. Even United, where there could be some big save points, and if there's a clean sheet, Pope's probably going to get bonus. You also get Everton for those fixtures as well. I feel like if you're on a Game Week 8 or even a Game Week 9 wildcard, Pope could be your guy. If you're someone like me that has Sanchez in net, I would also look to target Pope before you go down the route of a Raya. And to be fair, if you wanted to run the Ward and Iverson double up, there's merit because of the fixtures. I personally would stay away, just because of how poor Leicester have been. In terms of the other players there, and if you look at the bench, this has been optimised for Game Week 8. That back 5 allows you to have Reece James and brings him in for his good fixture run. I feel like under Potter, we've mentioned it in a previous live stream, the right wing back, left wing back role at Chelsea isn't going to change too much, or if anything is going to make them even more aggressive than ever. When you look at March and look at when Trossard plays left wing back or even a Stupian for Brighton under Potter, they're always getting in and around creating chances, winning penalties, or getting good XG. Reece James for me is someone that even on a Game Week 8 wildcard, I would look to bring in, even with the blank. Obviously, Game Week 9 moving forward for the World Cup is a great asset. And even if you're not on a wildcard, definitely someone I would look towards bringing in for the foreseeable future. This does bring me on to one of my big absentees in this side, and that's no Trent Alexander-Arnold. For me and Paul to not put Trent in the side is quite big because we're Liverpool fans. Just at the minute, we're a little bit disjointed. We seem to concede a lot of our, chances that we're allowing on goal. And I feel like if you're looking at a player like Trent, part of his appeal is our solid defensive unit that is usually there, and someone that provides good attacking threat. I feel like for Trent, there's better options elsewhere in the great fixture run of Cancelo, Trippier and Pope's double up, and James would outweigh the fact of just having Trent and maybe downgrading a Cancelo or a Trippier to keep him, or go without Reece James. With that being said, I feel like having Trippier, Cancelo, James, with a player like Emerson with good fixtures who is going to be a bit more nailed on for West Ham, allows you to also carry Saliba moving forward if you want to rotate him in for his good fixtures. I do think there's merit as well if you are on a wild card to maybe go against the Arsenal players. I'll talk about it with Martinelli, and obviously I have Jesus at the minute still. This week, if you were to hold him, it's okay. But moving forward, you've got Spurs, Liverpool, and City in the foreseeable future. It's not a bad time to maybe look at other defenders. If you can get past a couple of the tricky fixtures and you look at Zaha, good long-term fixture like James, someone I'll recommend to bring in. Maybe after a game week 10, maybe even on your wild card and you bench the Crystal Palace defender, there's an option for you to go down that route as well. My understanding of what I'm trying to say here is Trent is someone you can go without for now, someone you definitely would look to bring back in. And if you have an Arsenal defender, maybe it's now time to look at people with better fixtures, aka Trippier, or if you're looking a bit more longer term, even a Palace defender as well. As you can see in this draft, we still have Salah. I'm of the opinion that he did score in the Champions League this morning. He's coming back to some sort of form. It all depends on his positioning, the way he's played. We have done a lot of statistical breakdown, and everybody knows in the world that he's out of form in comparison to what he normally does. For the 12.9 mil price tag, he's someone with the fixtures of Brighton, Arsenal, City, and no fixture in Game Week 8. If I'm on a Game Week 8 wildcard, I'm removing him. If you're on a Game Week 9 wildcard, there is merit to keep him, ride him through these tougher fixtures, which can open up and allow him to score, because then you get the swing in 12, 13, and 14. It's something that if you think you're going to get more points by spreading the cash, or moving to Kane, which is an option because of how well he's playing, or moving to a Son or a De Bruyne shorter term before going back to Salah, is definitely an option as well. Me personally, I'm leaning towards one of the players not in this list. I'm leaning to going to get, Bowen and spreading that funds around to get Zaha and my next player, Maddison, that I want to mention as well. If you're on a Game Week 8 transfer or wild card, he's not someone I'd look to bring in right now. Here's someone, if you're on a wild card and you can bench him for a week, definitely look to bring in. But from Game Week 9, especially through to Game Week 13, and even beyond, I think he's still got a couple good fixtures. He's a player that's too good to not go with or without. Leicester have been poor, but a lot of their chances in XG have come through Maddison. And that leads me to my first player breakdown. As you can see, his expected points are a 3.1, expected goal of 0.5, and an expected XG of 0.14. You will say that he's expecting points of 3, 5, 4, 4, 5, and 4 over the foreseeable future. And he's someone that generally, when he has a good game, outperforms his expected points. I feel like the positions he's getting in according to the heat map are great. We've seen him score against the likes of Arsenal. He's someone for me that if you're on a Game Week 9 wild card, he's a lock. If you're on a Game Week 8 wild card, he's someone that if you can put on the bench and have someone else play like an Andreas, I would go for. And for me, and a lot of people out there who maybe play their wild cards maybe a couple weeks too early, he's someone that you definitely look to target for either a free transfer or even a -4 in Game Week 9. Sometimes in FPL, you need to take a little bit of a risk on a player not in form, but you know the quality is there. And for me, Maddison isn't particularly out of form. It's the team around him. And if they manage to swing it around with their good fixtures, this guy could definitely outperform his expected points, his expected goals, and his expected assists. And I feel like there's points on the horizon for Maddison. And there's obviously been statistical data of last year as well. When you look at the rest of the midfield, I think Martinelli, someone you can definitely look to keep or sell. Depends on how much you're going to look to get him back in the future. If you got him in at the start like I did, he's now selling for 6.4. To buy him back 6.5, you have a lot of money tied up there. If you want to protect your team value, 100% understand Martinelli staying in. Someone you could look beyond. Andreas is someone we've talked about a lot. He's the sort of guy that I think you just have to keep for the whole year. The best midfielder to have on the bench. Best midfielder to come in for games. And in a Game Week 8 wildcard, or you're on a normal Game Week 8 in terms of transfers, looking for a Game Week 9 wildcard, is someone you're keeping in. And you're probably playing to get 11 players on the pitch against Nottingham Forest. We know what he can do. The front three is as follows, and definitely the template has shifted to a three-man striker formation. It's Haaland, who I think is nailed. It's Tony and Mitrovic in this side. And there's merits for going for spreading the money around the front three. There is merits for other strikers, and there's also merits for getting Salah out and going to Kane. I will say on the Harry Kane one, it's a good fixture this week. If you're on a Game Week 8 wildcard, something to definitely think about because he's captainable. He has got the second most points out of all the premiums as well behind Haaland. And if Haaland wasn't as good as of a year, I think Kane is an option. But I feel like the player we have to talk about here is Mitrovic. And I think Mitrovic should be a lock for every wild card in Game Week 8, Game Week 9, or even if you're making a normal transfer, he's the striker you've got to go for. XG of 0.8 goals, XG of 0.9, XG assists 0.2, shots on target, shots in the box of over a shot per game in the box. Great heat map, and you look at the fixtures coming. You got Forest, a Newcastle side which can be got at, West Ham and Bournemouth who have not looked particularly great, and Villa who are leaky. You then follow that with Leeds and Everton before he goes and plays City and United in Game Week 15 and 16. He is someone that is a must-own. He is someone that has got great fixtures, and if you're on a wild card, you're on a later wild card, or you don't have already used your wild card, he's someone that you've got to bring in with this statistical data. When the player is second to Haaland, he's a player that you have to mention. And I think with Mitrovic, he is a guy that you target this week for sure. Feel like with Tony, he's someone if you already have, you keep. If you're wildcarding this week, I would avoid because he's got Arsenal. If you're wildcarding Game Week 9, I can understand because he goes Bournemouth, Newcastle, Brentford, which I understand as well. The one thing I will say is against Newcastle and Brentford, when Mitrovic has proven against the other big sides that he can score, Tony might find those defensively minded fixtures like Bournemouth and Newcastle a bit defensively, Newcastle and Newcastle and Brighton, who are more defensively solid in Game Weeks 10 11, might find it a bit more tricky. I personally, if I was going to pick another third striker that isn't Tony, and someone I would lean towards if you're on a Game Week 8 wildcard is Isaac. You get Bournemouth, you get Fulham, you get Brentford. 3 good fixtures for an attacker. Brentford are definitely not as defensively solid as what Newcastle have been in that same fixture in Game Week 10. I would also look at maybe saving some money and looking at Solanke. Decent long-term fixtures, decent XG, and someone that can definitely save you some money and look towards giving you more funds to strengthen that middle of the park. The last player I want to mention, though, is Palace, because the fixtures from 12 beyond look good. If you have a look, they go Everton, Southampton, West Ham, Forest, and you can keep them in your wildcard for Fulham and Bournemouth. It's a good run of fixtures, especially after Chelsea. Zaha being the pick of the bunch is, nearly going at a goal a game, or pretty much is at a 1.0. XG and XA that are very high. And more importantly, are going at an expected points per match of 6.8. And he's looked the most deadly out of all the other players. I do think with the fixture run, Palace are your best team to try and pick off. If you aren't going to go for Pope, it's Gaeta. He's a defender you can pick up for sure. Or you double up on Eze or Zaha if you really want to. I think Zaha, like Mitrovic, and honestly like Maddison, could be the 3 must-owns on your wildcard moving forward. If you are looking to drop Salah, there's options there. If you are looking to spread the funds around, there's strikers you can go to at a cheaper price point. If you are looking for 2 premiums and you're on the wildcard, I'm definitely going to say Harry Kane's probably your best one to go for. I will say by ending with this. At some point, you're going to want to root back to Trent and Salah. So whatever you do, keep that in the back of your minds. Do I think Game Week 8 is the best time to wildcard? If you've got more than 4 or 5 blanks, for sure. If you can get through Game Week 8 with 11 playing players without wildcarding and without taking a hit, I definitely would recommend Game Week 9, but get Mitrovic in for sure. Let me know what you are going to be doing this week. Let me know what your wildcard plans are going to be or transfers in the comment section below. From Damo underscore 23 and the FBL Dopata channel, yet again, like, subscribe, help get the content out to more people. And thank you yet again. We'll see you for a live stream, my team breakdown of what I'm doing this week, and of course, Paulie's as well.